Hi, I'm Julia Ain-Krupa, and this is the Impatient Moviegoer. This sweeping score that you hear in the background was composed by Franz Waxman for the 1940 Hitchcock film Rebecca, and we'll come back to that film later in today's episode. Today I want to talk to you about Joanna Hogg's new film, The Eternal Daughter, starring Tilda Swinton playing both Julie and her mother Rosalind in a spare and painterly portrait of the mother-daughter bond in all its complications. The film is also executive produced by Martin Scorsese. The narrative of the film plays out over a weekend spent in the countryside in a house that has been converted into a hotel, one that once belonged to Rosalind's aunt, a place ripe with memories both good and bad, where she'd lived out her holidays as a child. The weekend away is Julie's attempt to bond with and care for her mother and to celebrate her mother's birthday. But it is also an opportunity for Julie to develop a concept for a film about her mother. This dual requirement of the time makes Julie nervous and antsy as she tries to surreptitiously capture their interactions in audio recordings and in notebooks as the weekend ticks on. The Eternal Daughter explores an evolution of the characters first depicted in Hogg's semi-autobiographical films, The Souvenir and Souvenir 2. Inspired by her relationship with her mother, as well as Swinton's memories of her mom, the story takes place in a house that wishes to speak. As Julie struggles to make sense of the unknowable factors of her life, the undercurrents of memory, eerie voices of the deep primordial bond call out to her, warning that avoidance and fear will only trigger a special kind of personal haunting. Things will not change until she looks her own life directly in the eye. And so the entire film is a kind of slow and very private nightmare that she must overcome. The measured pace of the film is simultaneously emotional and aloof, as are Julie and Rosalind. They are repressed and loving, kind and frustrated, doing their best to make one another happy, unable to disentangle their enmeshment. Since at one point, an example is at one point where Julie refuses to order dinner because Rosalind says she isn't hungry. It is so hard for Julie to pull away from her mom that she cannot even nourish herself on her own. They deflect desires and needs back and forth, passive in their ability to assert their individualities, tiring one another. Julie is angry and frustrated about the ways in which she is sacrificing her own life in order to tend to her mother, and yet she is also incapable of letting go. The film makes clear the ways in which the mother-daughter bond is deeper than reason. It is a house that clings to its history, with sounds and voices calling. The bond is a forest permeated with mist, an abstraction of time that struggles to understand what stories it has witnessed. It is love in all its polarities, attracting and repelling, and yes, haunting. As we enter the liminal world of the Eternal Daughter, I am reminded, as a viewer, of the films of Alain Resnais, the echoing halls of Marienbad and the dew-soaked fields of Night and Fog. As we drive up to the manor through the carefully manicured lawns, I also recall the 1940 Hitchcock film Rebecca, the kind of masterpiece that imprints upon a viewer for a lifetime. The swelling musical score that draws us into the film from the start, playing the melancholic Andante Tranquillo by Bartók, somehow calls to mind Bernard Herrmann's emotional and immortal score for Hitchcock's Vertigo. Music that has not only pressed upon our movie-going psyches, but that has also influenced countless composers in its wake. To watch Swinton interact with Swinton as a kind of doubled persona is a compelling and hypnotic experience, one where you cannot help but sympathize with each character, however suppressed they might be. We see Julie's doubled reflection in a three-way mirror, holding her childhood toys to her body for comfort, giving us a window onto her inner struggles, a depth of feeling that her fears do not reveal. It is not until the end of the film, when the same mirror reveals a singular reflection, that we understand Julie to actually be in the process of accepting her loss. It is interesting to watch a film about the process of creation as well, to witness an accurate portrayal of the complex ways in which life entangles with one's art, to watch a film made by a woman about a woman making art about her life, as with this souvenir. Here the mist is a character as well, acting as a blanket that obscures reality, creating a veil that gives way to deeper truths. For a few days in time, Julia is being given an opportunity to live or relive precious moments in her life. But caught up in the fog of her own haunting, she feels uncertain about what she is experiencing, and wanders the gardens and the halls of the manor at night, jumping at the sudden whir of a machine or the slamming of a door. Is it caused by the wind, a ghost? She skulks around the exquisitely half-lit corridors, and we cannot help but feel that she would collect the tiniest cobwebs if she could, if only to preserve the light of a day that is now fading. The sense of time being obscured by the fog of misunderstanding is underlined by the pale blue-green twilight that seems to envelop her. Another thing that really calls to mind Vertigo as a devoted viewer. And just as Julie is confused as to what is real, feeling mocked by the stage-like environment around her, the gargoyles perched on top of the building in the night, the disembodied voices wooing the endless fog, her mother begins to face her own truth, revealing her memories, stories that Julie never knew. Now we learn that it was in this very house that Rosalind lived out her own personal horror stories. Just as Rosalind is exposing her own hidden darkness, Julie is doing her best to digest her mother's legacy as well as her own, all in the face of the knowledge that she herself will never become a mother, will never know what it means to face that bond from a different vantage point, that she will always be an eternal daughter. That is the crux of the film, I believe. The film also called to mind Polanski's Repulsion, definitely a far more extreme portrayal of a woman's inner haunting, and yet these two films might serve as distant cinematic cousins, though Hogg's film is softer and gentler and ultimately very tender in its resolution. At the end of the weekend, we witness time folding in on itself as, after 2 days of weeping and succumbing to her grief, Julie is wrapped in sunlight and sitting happily in bed, typing out the first lines of her script, a description of the opening of the film that we are now finishing watching. Come to think of it, I don't know if she's weeping for 2 days, but it feels like it. When they first arrive at the hotel, the reluctant receptionist says that she has no booking, even though Julie insists that she has planned this trip for some time. I can't put you in a room that I haven't got, the concierge insists, hinting at a deeper meaning. That's what rooms do, they hold stories, Rosalind later says. These reverberating statements carry us through the film, drawing the audience into Julie's haunting. Emily Dickinson once wrote, "Nature is a haunted house, but art is a house that tries to be haunted." The Eternal Daughter draws us into that house most aesthetically and carefully, reminding us that the darkest shadows most often dwell in our own minds. So thank you so much for listening. I'm Julia Ain-Krupa, and this is the Impatient Moviegoer. Keep seeing movies, keep looking for the beauty in life, and until next time, take care.